looking back on it now, I realize that the the extremity of the situation was truly unique, and I should have documented more. But oh well, that's 2020.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, there's still pictures. I mean,
there's
still several great pictures of us in some form or fashion that you could your grandkids and be like, hey, look, there's Dad at war,
Right. There's too many pictures of people cheesing on the COP. There's not very many pictures of us on patrol.
I got a good
Boyce
stack of photos.
Yeah.
I got a stack of photos because I'd carry that camera around with me, and LT would be like, take some pictures of this, take pictures of that. Mm-hmm. We went into one compound, and I was on a night raid or something, and we went in there, and there were just radio. It was like a radio shack. There were just radios and all kinds of electronics that had just been shredded and torn apart.
Yeah,
and all their
there's an old gas mask.
Yeah, they had all kinds of stuff in there. But yeah, so I had a camera. I've got a lot of pictures of before the grape rows started growing. I was looking at them today. Before they started growing, and then kind of as everything grew up and got a lot thicker.
Yeah, man. I used to have a picture of you standing in front of a poppy field. It was this massive poppy field when they were in full bloom. It's actually kind of a nice picture. It's this weird juxtaposition.
They look really nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty flower, right? But then you're sitting there in full kit. It's just kind of a weird little combo.
It's kind of lost on you.
Yeah, right, for sure. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Panjwai podcast. We're sitting here with Eric Boyce, who was our 13 Foxtrot. Is that the right nomenclature on that MLS?
Yeah, 13 Fox, Forward Observer, Fister.
Cool.
All the above.
So Eric deployed with us and spent a few months there in Afghanistan until fate decided to send him home a little bit early. Which
Another
we'll get to.
Early departure.
Another early departure, which we'll get to here in a little while. But
oh, man. Yeah.
So usually what we do, Eric, when we start these off is we just give somebody a chance to give us the kind of brief, quick version of why the Army, why your MOS. And since you're actually not in 11 Bravo, unlike the majority of our guests so far, why don't you give us the scoop on what exactly a Fister is and what they traditionally would do? And then tell us how you got to Bravo Company.
Yeah, so growing up, I always wanted to be in the military. I wanted to join the Marines for a long time, or the Army. It didn't really matter too much. I was going to join the Marines. That was kind of at the top of the list. I graduated high school, and my senior year, I met my now wife, and that kind of put all my plans on delay for a while. But after a while, I was like, you know what, I want to join the military. We're going to do it. So I told her, I said, well, you can come with me or we can stay. And we talked about it and decided, hey, let's get married, which is, great first steps of joining the military out of high school is to get married first. If you really want to have a successful marriage, that's one really good way to sabotage is join the military and get married, right? One before the other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I settled on the Army because it seemed to be a little bit more friendly as far as family-wise. The Marines had a lot more out-of-country posts that you could get stationed at, and you couldn't bring your wife. So I joined the Army. Went and talked to the recruiter, and they said, you got 3 options. I wanted a combat arms. If I'm going to join the military, I want to be combat arms.
Sure.
So I didn't have infantry. So they said, you got 3 options. You got Cav Scout, combat engineer, or forward observer. And my cousin, he was a combat engineer in Afghanistan. He did at least one deployment for I think he said 16, 18 months, somewhere in there. A really long one. And he said, combat engineer, don't do that. He goes, you look for IEDs and then you find them or they find you. I said, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. Cav Scout doesn't sound great. So I was like, what's an FO do?
Be a Cav Scout,
Yeah, right. Which is funny because my first unit was a Cav unit. I ended up as a Cav Scout in a Cav Scout unit anyway.
Nice.
So I asked him, I said, well, what's an FO do? And they, well, he's kind of on the front lines, but they kind of hang back and they observe and they call in artillery and talk to helicopters and airplanes. He didn't really know either because he was a tanker, but he kind of gave me the line. And I was like, well, that sounds good. Let's do that. So, yeah, that's how I became an FO.
Is the 13 Foxtrot, is that NOSIT or is it AIT?
No, you go through basic, then you do AIT afterwards. So I went to basic in Kentucky. And then
Fort
I
Knox.
did AIT at Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So
For people who aren't in the Army or aren't in the military, there's two different ways that some jobs work. The vast majority of jobs in the Army go to basic training first, which is 9 weeks. Is that right?
yeah, something like that.
And then they go on to AIT or Advanced Individual Training, where they get the specifics of that job. The infantry, and I think some of the other combat arms, tankers.
Tankers
And
Cab
Cab Scouts. I know they were both in Kentucky when I was going through there.
Yeah, they both do OSIT. I don't know if anybody else does OSIT.
I think that's it. So for the infantry, in our specific example, at least before when Benning was just infantry, now it's like everybody or whatever. But you go to OSIT or one station unit training, and you would go to Fort Benning, Georgia, and you didn't get 9 weeks and then go on AIT. You got 16 weeks with the same drill sergeants, same platoon, same units.
It's 24 weeks now.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yep.
Holy
That's a long time.
shit.
Everybody that constantly complained about them not learning enough in OSIT, they're like, okay, fine. Here's 2 more months.
Surely
Enjoy.
they're a little bit like easier on them now. I would hope that they give them more flexibility and free. Well, even though I've heard that they've actually taken away the shark attack now.
I heard
they
that
have.
too.
They have.
Really?
They've
That's
replaced it
sad.
with something else, which is still like designed to
Intimidate.
impose stress, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
The shark
Not
attack's
like a
a
shark
valuable
attack
thing,
will
man.
stress you out. That's for sure.
We
Yeah.
had shark attacks in warrant officer school. It was
Yeah.
so weird. It's like, screw you, man. I'm a combat veteran. Get out of my face.
If I'd have known what I know now, like going back to basic training, I'd have just half-assed all the smoking and stuff because you think you have to
Yeah.
really push yourself until you're literally collapsing. I'd just been like, meh. Anyways,
That
back
one guy
on track.
the one guy that was already like that was just kind of like, sagging and relaxing. So then they never stopped. And that guy was just chilling through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're like an older private going in, you would probably understand that it's all just theatrics, And so you'd if I could go back and do basic training again now, which I think I would actually gladly do. Maybe not for 4 months, but for just a couple weeks, just
Maybe
to
4
fuck
weeks.
with, just to fuck with the drill sergeants as much as they're fucking with you.
Yeah, but you could wear your CIB and your combat patch and all that stuff in there too. So then what are they going to say to you? And nowadays, most of the drill sergeants probably don't even have a combat
true.
patch.
That's true, yeah.
Not that really matters.
You heard
to
it here
anybody.
first, folks. Luke Coffey would like to rejoin the United States Army.
No, I would definitely not. Never.
Oh man.
Just kidding. He
It
just says
was
he wants to go to basic
the
training
worst good decision I ever made.
again. It's funny how it works like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the
It's
best
a
worst
decision you don't
ever.
regret doing, but something that you would not choose
To do
to do a second time. You know?
for sure.
Well,
I
you
wouldn't
think you
undo
think you
it.
might
I'd do
would,
it again, but
really you wouldn't.
yeah,
Oh, I never have that problem. I never sit around and go, man, I wish I would have stayed in.
no.
Or like, oh, I wish I would have done that. Like, I've never done that because I had loathed being in so much. Now I've come to realize.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time. Well, I mean, I say that now. I feel like I enjoyed it when I was in there because now I'm just like, man, that was a lot of fun. I had a good time. But
Well, if like when you look back on it, your brain wants to remember the good stuff.
Yeah,
the
that's what
10%.
I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
back on it and I'm like, man, that'd be fun to do that again. But then I'm also sitting there thinking, I'm like, don't be a jackass, dude.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't
like
want to do that again.
You remember, like, Curtis, I'm breaking my rule. You remember shooting the Gustav.
Yeah.
But Curtis has forbidden me from mentioning the Gustav, but I'm going to do it anyways. So you remember that, but that was literally like 3 seconds of a 9-month deployment,
Yeah.
versus the countless hours you spent on a Saturday because somebody in the battalion got a DUI. So you go in full kit because that makes sense.
Somebody
Or
lost
having
a
to get a
pistol.
haircut the week before you get out of the Army just so you can get your clearing papers.
Triggered. Don't even get me going on that. Oh man, like it would be a whole other episode where I'm just going to rant about how stupid the army is on a lot of stuff.
You'd be
All
more
right,
than
we're
one
done.
episode for that.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
series. That's a mini series for sure.
That's a whole nother podcast.
It is a whole other podcast.
Why the Army blows.
Oh man.
Well, we've already promised Nance we'll have him back on for a session.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Rant
round
Rave.
table for sure.
Yeah,
That would be if you could do like a whole Zoom meeting going, like 12 people in there, and they just go round table, And then whoever can't think of something at the end of it, they get cut from the meeting until there's last man standing.
Have a gauntlet, a bitch.
The most
bitching
opinionated
gauntlet.
will survive.
Yeah, I like that idea. This will be we'll come up with a clever name for it. The gauntlet of complaints.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so you got out of AIT.
Yep.
And then we're off to
So
next.
yeah, so I was in AIT, and they handing out orders to everybody. Half of us went to Hawaii. The rest of us went to Fort Stewart. So I ended up at Fort Stewart. Went to a Cav unit, 3-7 Cav in 2nd Brigade. We were there for a while. Kind of got popped up on the radar of a few of the brigade level NCOs with a few other of the new guys that showed up. So they had a brigade-wide FO competition, and a few of us scored pretty high on the competition. And so then they started putting together a brigade Colt team. They're rebuilding it, which is a combat observation and lasing team, and that is a brigade-level asset. And they were rebuilding that team from the prior deployment that they had just gotten back from, that you were on, Luke. Mm-hmm. So they're rebuilding that, and they pulled a whole bunch of us up to 1-9 FA, so an artillery unit, and they picked the NCOs that they wanted, some of the higher quality NCOs from the battalions that also had popped up on the brigade level radar to the Fires NCO. So they picked their NCOs, and then they went through, and of their NCOs that they had picked, they said, all right, I want you to pick people that you think would be good up here from your units. So no matter what the other battalions, 1st of the 30th or 164 or 3-7 Cav, they didn't have a say in it, but they picked the guys they wanted to be at in the Colt team. So I showed up in January of 3-7, and by August I was in 1-9, and so that was in 2011. So get to 1-9, and we're kind of doing our thing, and then November kind of rolls around, and then it's that rumor mill is coming.
Yeah.
So hey, there's going to be a deployment. At that time, at least for me, everybody wanted to deploy, wanted to get that patch or that whatever. They didn't join the military just to be garrison. So everybody's getting a little excited, and we're in 1-9 at the time. And December came around. They said, all right, well, we're going to NTC to support 1st to the 30th, because they had just gotten orders to deploy, and they pulled so they pulled 2 FOs from 1-9 that weren't a part of the Colt team, but they were they were staff FOs, so they were working in the S shops and stuff. They pulled them terrible to deploy with 1st to the 30th. So we're like, well, maybe we'll get our shot on the next go. So Christmas came around, and we had loaded up all of our duffel bags, and we were headed to NTC to support 1st to the 30th. When right before Christmas leave, our platoon sergeant called us in, and he had a little meeting for us, and he said, all right, guys, 164 is deploying, and they need FOs. So who wants to go? So a few of us raised our hands, a few of us didn't, I think, if I remember correctly. And then
did you raise your hand?
Don't tell my wife, but yes, I did. I don't know if she knows that. But that's kind of
I was wondering if that was household knowledge.
Yeah. Don't tell my wife. So
she's gonna listen.
She's not gonna listen, is she?
What's that?
She's not gonna listen to this, is she?
She might listen to this one. I was listening to Captain Kitchings, or Lieutenant Colonel Kitching now. I was listening to his yesterday, and she got up and walked out and said, there's a reason I don't listen to these. So, I don't know. She may or may not. I don't know. She might listen to it because it's my episode, or if not, that's fine.
Sure. So you ended up in 164 by volunteering to be there.
By volunteering to be there, yeah. It was an interesting arrival, because we went on Christmas leave halfway through December, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 weeks just gone. At the end, I'm already anxious to get over to the new unit. I want to figure out, I want to meet people. I don't want to go into this not knowing anybody. Well, my wife is also 9 months pregnant. So she has our first kid on January 9th. So I came back for a week, to 1-9 to out process 1-9, and then I immediately went back on 12 days of leave because my wife just had our first son.
Mm.
So that's from the 9th of January, and I came back early because I was like, I don't like this. I'm going to get put in a really shitty platoon or something that I don't want to be a part of. I'm going to get put in a tanker platoon. So I came back a few days early. I think I took like maybe 8-10 days off, and I came back, I don't know, a few days early. Right after that, we went to NTC.
So you went to NTC twice, or you didn't have to go the first time?
No, so we pulled our bags off right before Christmas
Okay.
leave.
Okay.
So they said, who wants to go? All right, go down and get your bags out.
Cool.
So we went down, unlocked the connexes, and pulled all our bags out.
And now, how did you end up specifically working for First Platoon? Because that was a stroke of luck and a blessing for you personally to work for Sergeant Ott and not some of the other options.
I'm very happy I got stuck where I was. I wasn't sure at first because I didn't know anybody. And I bounced. I actually was with 2nd Platoon first.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was with 2nd Platoon for NTC. No, we got there, and right before we went out into the box, they moved me over to. They're like, "Hey, you're going to 1st Platoon."
Nice.
And I didn't know anybody, but as a brand new private, you try to make the best like judgments on people, but it's really you can't until you know them.
Because I was trying to remember when did you register to me?
Yeah.
Like, did we get to Afghanistan before I was like, this guy's part of our platoon? I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember.
There's a lot of people that I didn't even know existed until we were in Afghanistan and talked to them. Yeah. But so I spent, you're finally trying to get to know people in 2nd, and they're like, hey, you're going to 1st. I'm like, all right, that sucks. I don't know anybody over there, and I'm halfway through NTC.
Mm.
So I went over to 1st Platoon, and it seems some of the other veterans that have been in a little bit longer, it seems that there's not an appreciation for FOs in a mechanized unit so much as there is in a light infantry unit. That may just be my perception, but it seemed I was met with no love from a few people that they just didn't like me, just purely based on the fact that I was an FO. So that made it even better.
Little did they know that you would go on to Afghanistan and solidify yourself as a all-around badass whose love and respect was endless in 1st Platoon.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, man. So you came to us halfway through NTC, deployed with us. I think one of the things that we need to give you your credit on, as well as to our medics as well, like Salvador, as well as Sarnot and Lieutenant Persons, is the rest of the squads, we would rotate out. So every other patrol, 2nd squad, 3rd squad, 2nd squad, 3rd squad. But you got the luxury and the pleasure of going out on every single patrol.
Yeah, that was fun.
So even though you went home a little early, you probably saw more combat than anybody else in the platoon in the time you were there, just because you were not on every single patrol that our platoon went on.
Yeah, that's possible. I did go home a couple months early, so
yeah,
what, 3 months early, 3.5 months early, something like that.
It was what, July?
So it was August 15th.
5 months early, yeah. You make it halfway.
Yeah, I know.
Just kidding. One thing we wanted to kind of go over is, and you kind of briefly mentioned the difference between Fister and an RTO, which honestly, most of the times, like even like special operations units, their JTAC is essentially serving as an RTO. He's making a lot of the radio calls, but that's not what an Fister is. A forward observer is not just a radio bitch. Please explain to us what your job is supposed to be and what you ended up doing.
Yeah, I was definitely the radio bitch. So an FO is kind of supposed to be with the LT the same as an RTO, but he's supposed to kind of essentially be on a fires net, or there for communication with the assets that we have available. So if you have mortars or you had artillery, he would be on that fires net in communication with them. And then you'd have an RTO there to maintain communications with the TOC and the company headquarters. And so, we were so undermanned. We had a fraction of the size of what our company should have been for what we were doing, especially in that area. So I mean, I kind of got rolled. They kind of rolled the FORTO role into one, and that's kind of where I fell in there. Being in a mechanized unit, that's like you guys talked about on a previous episode. Is all of the money goes to the vehicles, all of it. So I mean, we had old weapons from who knows how old they are.
Iraq. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, FO's equipment is just as old, and we got these big like target designators, and they were just paperweights is what they were, and we tried to use them a couple times, but that was just a horrible experience. Ended up freezing our ass up on a hill with a broken piece of equipment.
I remember that. I was up there with you.
That was that was horrible. That was when we first got there, and we were like, we're gonna go on this patrol. We're gonna be super high speed. We're gonna set up an OP up on top of this mountain down here. We're gonna catch some bastards trying to smuggle weapons in there. And we went out the front gate, and all the trucks that we took out the front gate just sunk right in the mud, and that was that. So then
we had to walk.
Yeah, we marched all the way back into the Sperwan Ghar, and we were soaked from the waist down already. We were laughing and joking and like, ha ha ha, they're gonna call this mission. Captain Kitchen came out and he goes, "All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and walk down there." We're like, what? No.
I can hear him say it.
Yeah.
So he goes,
you got the pace
there.
right on your impression.
Yeah. So he came down and he told us, "Hey, you guys are walking." So we loaded up our bags with all the extra stuff that we needed to make it down there, and we walked. And that was the first time I cuddled with another man for warmth.
And not the last.
I don't know how I got out of that, man, but I'm so glad I did.
That was like to dig the trucks out.
Probably
no, because it was me and Straka, and that ended up. We're the only ones that got woken up to go to join you guys, because you're it was second squad's mission. We were off. Like we had like a legit off day. Like we were at the end of our Q. We had finished our QRF shift, so we were like our next day was gonna be a mounted day to drive trucks. Mm-hmm. So we were not on at all, and got woken up at like 11 o'clock at night. Said go grab your stuff.
You guys
go
ready
meet
for
up
a
with
walk?
Sergeant Nintz, and you're going for a walk.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh man, yeah, I was not envious of that, but that was so early on. I mean, that had to be.
That was that was one of our first. Yeah,
that's
before
before we
we even took contact,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it was far too. Like
that. Oh my
that's
gosh, that was
movement.
one of the longest.
And you had to climb
we'd
that
ever
mountain.
done.
Like that was one of the things about it. We didn't climb mountains, but that's like the one time in the whole deployment you climbed a mountain.
We climbed a mountain, and then when we got to the top, in the dark with the crappy PVS 14s, which I have now learned,
garbage.
I could have bought my own pair of PVS 14s. It would have been better than the ones I was issued.
Those things were not great for walking in uneven terrain.
No.
Yeah.
So we climbed this mountain in the dark with these crappy night vision goggles. We get to the top. Everyone is smoked because we were basically climbing up cliffs the whole way. Mm-hmm. And then when daybreak comes, we climb down. There's a path like 5 feet from where we had walked up. Perfect go path. We couldn't see because our night vision goggles were that terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad. That's one of those missions where you can't help but laugh. Like during, you're just like, this is
gotta
just
laugh,
so
keep from crying, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because
nobody got hurt.
Nintz was down there too. He was leading the squad leader, and we were just, you're sitting there, and they're trying to figure out what they're trying to do. We're down at the base of the mountain, and you're just like, this is just a mess. Like, what are we doing? This is a mess. Well, then his Peltors, the batteries died in there, and you can't always tell when they die. So he's whispering to the LT, and his voice is just echoing across the valley. And I don't think he had realized that the batteries were dead. Yo, LT! I was trying to whisper, and it's just... I'm like, oh, no. Man.
Did you guys see anything on that mission, or was it just nothing?
So we got up to the top. Corporal Young, he went up with me, right? So we were the 2 FO team that we were down there, and we brought this big old designator in, like, it was horrible. So we set this targeting system up. This is probably like 30 years old piece of equipment. We set it up, we fire it up, and it just doesn't work, like, at all. I was like, oh,
hey, man, why didn't you do your PCCs and PCIs?
Oh, jeez.
Sorry, Mally wouldn't let you get away with that, He'd been out there making you test it on the HLZ.
Well, it worked up until that point. Like, it would turn on, and it would
Shit.
you could kind of get the thermal working, but anytime you like
That's
zoomed
an
in
inside
or-
joke for the platoon. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Random listeners, they don't get that joke.
We'll cut it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of obscure.
Cut it.
Yeah. So that was an early experience for you, but your first contact was probably our first firefight as a platoon, I would think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was that first one out by was it the 2-6 grid line or
The 2-8 grid line.
2-8 grid line? Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
went swimming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to practice any of your RTO and or FO skills on that mission, or do you just remember just
So you always kind of question yourself, what's going to happen in the first firefight,
Mhm.
and so up until this point, everybody's like, I want to get in a firefight, but then you're also like, man, I hope I'm really good in a firefight.
Yeah.
So we're on this patrol, and like up until this point, they've just beat into you the ROE, PID, 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 PID.
Mhm.
So in that firefight, that big open, it's not field, but it's just a big old dust courtyard or whatever
Yeah.
that we were.
Mhm.
I was standing in the middle of that, and we were sitting there, and then that one shot behind us rang out, and that all happened back there.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then all hell let loose, and I dropped on my belly, and well, I don't see anybody, so I'm not going to shoot at anything. So I'm sitting there, and that's when Boley looked at me, and he goes, "Fire your fucking weapon over there. That's where we're getting shot from." I'm like, "Oh, that's how it's done. All right." And I just, hammered down where I could hear it coming from.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then I was laying there, and then that's when Lieutenant Persons, he called me. He goes, telling me to get over there, and I'm just like, man, it's my first firefight, and he's just calling me over there so we can talk on my radio.
Yeah.
Oh, this is bullshit. I just want to be in a firefight and, be cool like everybody else. And I got over there, and he goes, no, man, they were shooting. Those rounds were kicking up all around you. I was just trying to get you out of there. And I was like, oh, shit.
So they were shooting at you. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, that
think-
lovely antenna that waves 10 feet above my head.
That's
Makes
what I was
for
gonna.
you.
I was gonna ask you about how many times did you get shot at just because you were waving your
your 10
position around the Taliban with your
I
12-foot
hated
whip
that
antenna.
thing. I'm sure everybody else hated it too, because I'm pretty sure I clobber whopped everybody at least once.
Oh yeah.
I think the best one, I got a picture of us sitting along a wall, and I think there's like 5 people to my left. And like right after the picture is taken, they called me up and they said, "Hey, come down here, LT needs you." And I stood up and I hit every single person that was down there in the head. It just came back and came down
Smack,
and just smacked them all in the head. And they were like, "What the fuck, boy? Stop."
Yeah.
Really let
So
me
not
have
only
it.
did you have to go on every patrol, but you had literally a flag waving above your position, so you were behind the wall. Taliban
Yeah.
like, oh well, there's one of them at least right there.
We drop in the grape roast. I'm like, wonder where they're at. Oh, just look for that waving
It's so
stick in the air.
it's so comical to just see this thing sticking up.
Yeah,
Like, you can't
just-
see the person.
yeah,
But it's
just
like a shark
flopping
fin
around.
just going down the freaking grape road.
And it just sways back and forth. And which,
Yeah.
at the end of that 5-8 hour patrol, it pulls on you back and forth like this. And oh man, it's the
Oh,
worst.
yeah.
That's another
You
thing.
didn't keep it fully extended all the time though, did you? You
I did.
Did you?
Did you?
I did.
Jesus,
For whatever reason, outside of a click, outside of we started losing comms. It was kind of spotty, so it was kind of like, I guess I gotta extend my whip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's awesome. Just
So
flopping
the
back and
caught in
forth.
trees all the time, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unbeknownst to you, on this first firefight, you were actually getting shot at, and then
Yeah.
obviously things just ramped up from there. But was there a moment in the deployment, especially in those first 3 months, where it really sunk in that like shit was real and it was about to get thick?
You know what? I was very naive, and I was stupid.
Hmm.
The reason I joined the Army is because I was all about the Army, all about the military. It was kind of a little romanticized. I grew up on war movies. I played outside playing war, and
As we
I
all
wanted
did.
to go to war.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in the real deal, and nothing it had never occurred to me at all that we would ever hit an IED. They hadn't. And it's weird. It's kind of stupid, but I was a kid, and you just think we're invincible, and that clearly is not the case. And so, leading all the firefights up to there, it still hadn't really occurred to me. It was just part of the fun. We found plenty of IEDs, and it had never occurred to me that we would hit one of them until with the engineers. And that's when it, just punches you right in the face and says, it's all downhill from here, buddy.
Yeah, you're vulnerable.
Yeah. That was a rough one for a lot of people. That I think that's kind of a reoccurring theme I've noticed with a lot of your episodes. That's when everybody realized we're in for a ride of our lives. Yeah. It's not going to be a good one.
Well, I think it's difficult for people to like wrap their mind around the concept of IEDs. Mm-hmm. Even like the driving ones, like you don't drive down the road expecting to get blown up. You certainly don't walk around with this ever-present thought in your mind, like, "Oh my God, I could blow up at any moment."
Mm.
Yeah.
So you always just like, okay, that was a problem that somebody else had at some other time, and it doesn't apply to me. 'Cause I know even clearing, I never really thought I'd find one. I thought I was just going through the motions kind of thing.
Yeah, so that whole day, like we found IEDs left and right, and that was just, it was an annoyance.
Yeah.
Like it was annoying. But leading up to that, I'm surprised we got so lucky. I mean, that same day, the squad leader for the 3 engineers that were out there, he was probing, not messing with it, but he was probing an IED, and then it started ringing. Like it was attached to a phone and it started ringing, and he took off running down towards us, and he's put his hands on his knees and he was breathing hard. And we're like, what happened? He goes, man, it started ringing. And he goes, what? What are you talking
Holy
about?
shit.
And then down, you guys remember Lane, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's another FO, and he was in the talk and then took over for 3rd Platoon. And we were on that same day, we were having lunch. We were eating our MRE on a quick stop while the ANA were probing another IED down the road from us. They must put 20 pounds of C4 on that thing, because they blew that thing up, and that knocked us on our ass, and we were sitting down already, and like it knocked us over. It was just like, what are you guys doing? Just a little bit. You gotta save that. We need that later.
They have their own explosives. Don't give them too much.
But yeah, that was a big explosion on that one. And that the whole day was just IEDs left and right, and that's when we, it kind of turned around for all of us. Like, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, you're right. We've talked about it a few times. So we won't beat a dead horse to death, but that time frame of the deployment was kind of awakening for a lot of people, because we had Lux just a few days before that. And just 2 weeks before that was Brazos. So, like, in a very short period of time, we kind of realized, okay, not only can we get shot, we can get blown up too. Like, we are not immune to the dangers here. And because even before that Skecha mission, we had seen some IEDs, but okay, well, that's there, and EOD messed with it, and we did the whole call EOD, wait 4 hours kind of thing, because it was so rare to find them. But once that Skecha clearing mission happened, we're like, we are our own EOD. Like, it's us. We can't call them for every single one of them.
Yeah. So it got to the point where we go around them.
Yeah,
we know they're there. Yeah. Go around them. We're not going to get them all. We're just wasting time. We got a mission. Go around them.
Call it up and bypass. Yeah.
And it's always worse. Like, it was terrible, because you stand on a road and you look down to your left and there's a rock formation, and you're like, well, I wonder what side I'm on. And then you look to the left, and then, oh shit, there's another rock formation. We're in
Easy.
Let's get out of here. I don't like this.
And for our listeners, I think we've kind of mentioned that before, but I'm glad you brought it up, Eric. These rock formations you could theoretically be on either side of them, but they were put there by the Taliban to warn the locals where not to go. Because basically, if you go beyond this point, there's an IED somewhere. They're not necessarily marking the exact location of the IED. So you would look at that line of rocks and be like, okay, which side of am I on? And then if you see that there's an intersection on the other side of the line of rocks, you can probably deduce that that's where the IED is. But if you find yourself between two, don't move. Turn around, walk back in your footsteps, and go back over the wall, because you have no idea. And they're not just all pressure plates too. They can be in the walls, they can be in the trees. We've seen
in a boot in a tree.
Yeah,
that one almost got my antenna. Yeah. Falling antennas and IEDs in the trees don't don't let your antenna go through the trees.
No.
So.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
let's not even theorize.
Oh my God, yeah, that's not even worth entertaining. What would have happened?
No.
Well, I think this is actually a good chance for us to break down our like kind of evolving SOP for IEDs, because as we've discussed, engineers was obviously the big like they're real. I mean, we had experience, but we hadn't had that direct experience as a platoon.
Right. Yeah.
And then another thing, like as we evolved, we just spotted. So you spot a suspected IED, you'd send up the grid coordinates, and that was it. But we were walking a lot in formation, which we've already talked about how much they limit our movements. But we'd also have like you see road crews that people out, if there are people out measuring, or what's the word I'm looking for, surveying, they'll have a little stick with a spray paint on the bottom of it, and we got to where we would just reach down with that spray paint and spray a little half moon around the suspected IED. I would usually put a little arrow on the rare occasion I did do this job. I'd put a little arrow sticking out so that you knew which side to step on.
Yeah.
And so as we evolved into the deployment, like we saw them, we'd just spray paint them and do it. And another thing we did is occasionally, as we were clearing, we would spray paint 2 little lines. So every 10, 15 meters, you'd spray paint 2 lines on your left and your right, so that people knew the general path to stay between the lines on. So, and then...
Well, that's a good point. The first couple IEDs we found, we called EOD for.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went into the phase that you're talking about where we're like, okay, we're going to spray paint and bypass. And then we got the we developed the confidence with our command and with the other forces in the area that they allowed us to build our own line charges.
Yeah.
And a line charge is essentially you take little balls of C4, wrap them, duct tape them to a line of det cord. And the idea is you throw that charge across a path, blow it, and it clears a path. And a lot of our listeners from earlier deployments to the area will know about the APOBs or the MICLIC. And the APOBs is like a backpack system that does the same thing. It just uses a rocket to launch it a really long way. It's a really long line charge.
And it's super heavy.
It's super heavy. It's like a 2 backpack system. And then the MICLIC is the same thing, but it's towed behind a truck. It's a huge system. So we just condensed that thing. We got the training on how to build our own. And when we would come across something that we thought was an IED and we had to go that way, we'd throw the line charge and blow it.
Or if you hop a wall, like Boyce was talking about, and you look to the right and you see you're on one side of the rocks, and you look to the left and you see the rocks, then you would get back across the wall, throw a line charge across the road, blow it, and then cross right there and up and over the next wall into the next compound or whatever.
And that's a tactic that I once we adopted that, I think that stuck with us pretty much to the end.
It did.
That blowing those line charges, man, that ring your bell.
Oh yeah,
I remember using those things as just using that after you're dehydrated and you got a headache, and you're like, well, let's throw one of these line charges.
Yeah,
man,
it's rocky noodle. That's C4.
Yeah, it is, and it depends on who made them too. Some people made them a little chunkier than others.
Yeah,
everybody wants to get rid of ammunition or ordnance or whatever, just so they make their bag a little bit lighter. So I'm gonna use an extra stick
get
here
rid
and
of
pack
that
this a
line
little
charge.
bit tighter.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody would basically cut a block of C4 in half. And each half would be like one piece of the line charge. Like a line charge would be like 12 pounds of C4. It's like, nice.
That's a lot.
I thought we agreed on fourths.
Yeah. Well, and then, the very last, well, not the very last, but, we've talked about throat chop a bunch. Probably in the second day of throat chop, we probably had 12 to 15 line charges go off. Mm-hmm. If I have a TBI, it's not from any of the bombs I drove over. It's from the line charges that we set off. So yeah, I mean, as Luke mentioned, that our tactics in terms of dealing with them evolved rapidly. And when we talked to Russ Ho, who was the EOD team leader, he'll tell us how nervous it made him that we were making our own line charges and using them. He was certain that we were going to get ourselves killed.
Oh man.
Yeah. That seems kind of like a common theme is we'd get a new weapon system of some type, and it'd be like, here, let's go figure out how to use this real quick, and then we'll use it on these patrols here. Hey, Gustav, anybody ever shot this? No? Well,
No.
Here you go. Let's go ahead and don't angle that too high.
Oh, Pakistan.
Hey, anybody use a 60 millimeter mortar? No? All right, cool. Here, carry this. You carry a couple extra rounds. Don't hurt yourself.
Man, that's one I'm glad we abandoned quickly.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't carry the 60 hardly at all. I think like the only time it was ever really used was in the horn.
I remember you guys carrying it once, and that's what that mission that we split off and got in that big ambush up there.
Yes, Kohler's
first mission. Because we dropped you guys back there with the mortar, and we went up front. And then I can remember Phil carrying it around a little bit. Him and Nagurn. They carried
and it got carried one more time after that when Sergeant Lloyd came to us, which was after you left us. But Sergeant Lloyd was an 11 Charlie. And
which makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
he's like, I can't believe you guys aren't taking the mortar. Like, bro, you don't understand. Like, you're never going to get to shoot it. He's like, no, I'm real fast. I'm totally going to get to shoot it. It's like, bro, if you want to carry that thing, you're a strapping young lad. You go for it.
He was
he took it on one mission. He's like, that's stupid. I'm never going to use it.
Yeah.
Well, we stopped using it because, well, for one, nobody really knew how to use it. And then two, he's like, the birds would be on station so fast for us a lot of the times that by the time you got that mortar in place, started lobbing rounds, the birds were probably there or on their way, and it wasn't really safe to send that explosive ball of hate up into the air in an arc. Yeah. Be a good way to take out a Kiowa. That'd be fun.
We would be very upset.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Take a Kiowa out. No, we're not helping you guys no more.
Yeah. Fine. Use your mortar.
So as an RTO or even as an RTO/FO, but you get to talk to the birds quite a bit, man. So you actually got some valuable experience as on the ground in terms of doing your job, right?
Yeah, definitely. We actually, leading up to, before I even went to 164, they have at Fort Stewart, or any military post, they have a guard fist. And you might have even gone there. It's a call for fire trainer.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's kind of like the EST, but for artillery, mortars, and close air support, and all that kind of stuff. And we were over there like every single day. And we would do what we needed to get done for the day, and we would go there. And then we would spend the day there, just training. And then that really helped going over.
I think it's good training. Like for as simple of a system as it is, just to get the repetitions in and to be able to shift fire and stuff like that. It's really cool.
Definitely. And just learn how to talk, because that's a huge thing. Is like, have you ever seen somebody pick up a radio that they've never, like a military radio, and then you got to sit there and try and think of all the radio lingo that they want you to use, and then you just fumble all over it because you don't know what to say or how to say it in military terms.
Yeah.
Like,
the funny thing about that is if you're talking back to like a gun line, they're super picky. If you say one thing wrong, they're like,
never ever say repeat.
Never say repeat. Like,
bust your balls for that one.
Better get your call for fire in order, all three sections immaculate. But if you're talking to pilots, man, we do not care.
Yeah. The red smoke 150 meters to the north.
That was the awesome thing about that experience, is because training, and they give you a sheet of paper and they say, all right, when you talk to them, you say it in this order, and you tell them what you want, your location, and they go through how you tell it and how you're supposed to do it. And then the Kiowas show up and they're like, yo, what's up, bro? We can be here for 30 minutes. We got some rockets.
We got eyes on you. Where's the enemy? Cool, Roger. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we got eyes on. Hey, we're gonna be.
It's just like talking to one of your bros on the phone or something. Those guys were, working with those guys was awesome. Just
we did that on purpose. Like, no one wants to talk to a robot, man.
Yeah.
It definitely it calms you down when somebody comes in there, because you're not trying to think about, how do I say this to them? How do I communicate with them? Because the Air Force came in and dropped us supplies, and they came in and they started just spouting all this stuff off with, like, they're going to drop supplies. But I'm like, well, I don't know how to talk to
Bengal or something.
Yeah. Right. And he's like, all right, we're coming in from the southeast. What are the surface lengths? And I'm like, LT, what are surface lengths? And he looks at me and he goes, I don't know. So I was like, all right, I'll just BS my way through this one. So I kind of talked to him, like, didn't really know. And you could hear in his voice, like, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? And we're just going back and forth. And then finally somebody's like, yeah, surface lengths. That's the wind direction and speed on, like, where you're at on the LZ. And I'm like, oh. So like, wait, yeah, there's no surface lengths. And he goes, yeah, we're not dropping. We're going home. Because he didn't trust what I was saying, or I even knew what I was talking about, which I didn't up until that point.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, if you're just on the ground humping it out, it's like just drop it on the blue smoke.
Yeah.
It's like I need whatever ordnance, water bottle, whatever the hell it is. Just drop it on the blue smoke. Don't drop it on the white smoke. Drop it on the blue. Thank you.
The Air Force has to have their hands held through the whole process. Like calling in an Apache or a Kiowa is super simple. You need like 2 pieces of information. Where am I? Where's the enemy? And like we can work for you.
Yeah.
But the Air Force, like you need a distance, you need a direction, you need what angle is the attack going to come from, like what type of control. Can you see the airplane? Can you see the target? Like
Yeah.
it is a very involved process, and an Air Force pilot will not drop.
If he
certain
doesn't know,
criteria is not
if
met.
he doesn't feel confident in what you're saying to him, in which I did not imbue any confidence in what I was saying. So he was like, we're gonna come back tomorrow morning. We'll see. Try this again tomorrow. The next morning I'm like, surface lengths are north to south, 1 knot. Yeah, I completely made it up. There was no wind, but I just wanted to sound extra confident, so he would give us our water and our.
Right.
Did you? So how do you tested that? You stuck your finger in your mouth, got it wet, and stuck it up in the air, and you're feeling the direction of the wind, right? And you'll see the sun come up, and you're like, yeah, that's probably northwest.
It's funny where we were at. It was very, very easy to distinguish north, south, east, west.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Panjwai
And that was
runs on a perfect
super
east-west
helpful.
axis.
Yeah.
Or at least the horn does.
So the riverbed's in the south. There's a river up north. You can see Ghar. Yeah, you can see that. So that's up there. So yeah, it was pretty easy. Pretty easy to distinguish.
Even the grape rows ran east and west for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Which I would imagine has to do with the sun.
I never really thought about that, but that's a really good observation.
I've thought about it before because the majority of them run east to west, and it's got to be for the exposure to the sun throughout the majority of the day.
Kind
That would make sense.
We need to get an Afghan grape farmer on here.
They're raisin farmers. I learned that. I was very sad to learn that you cannot get Afghan wine.
Yeah,
so I guess in hindsight, it kind of makes sense.
So
I think that'd be kind of against the rules, wouldn't it? Wine,
right? Yeah, they don't drink alcohol, so why would they make wine?
True. So we're kind of frog marching through the deployment, getting in a lot of contact, stuff's ramping up, and then we come upon this infamous day that we've kind of talked about in detail here with a few people, which came to be known as Minotaur Down.
Minotaur Down.
So I think if people who have listened to the podcast consistently have heard the Boyce story by now, but people who haven't listened to it as consistently, we should still get it from the horse's mouth, if you will. So
yeah, that was a fun one.
So I think what we'll do is let's just kind of get your part of that day, talk about the day itself, and then tell us about your event and how that worked out for you.
Man, the milkshake, right? So start with that. I wanted my milkshake is what I wanted. Right. So we'd made that one trip back to CAF, right? And then TGI Fridays, we all got on there. We all got milkshakes or something. I got a milkshake, and it was probably the worst milkshake you'll ever have. Yeah, but after being out in Panjwai, it was the most amazing thing that I'd ever had. So we go back out there, and we're finally like, all right, hey, this is the last time, probably, maybe a couple other times later on, but it's gonna be a while before we go back to CAF. We're going to CAF tomorrow. I'm like, I'm getting a milkshake. It's gonna be the thing, right? So that was kind of like my motivation for getting back that milkshake. So leading up to that day, that was kind of that was a start to a really heavy time for our platoon. Like people started going down. After that week, it's 3 weeks straight, we were losing people fairly consistently. And you'd mentioned earlier going out on every patrol, and there was a lot of mental attrition starting to kind of come to a head at this point in the deployment. And it was hitting me pretty hard. Like I wasn't sleeping at night. I had some pretty bad anxiety, and I went up to my LT and I said, "Hey, I just need a day off. Can you give me a day?" Because I was going out on every patrol that our platoon went on. If we were on patrol, it was QRF or whatever. So he's like, "All right, I'll get you a day." So he got me a day off, and our platoon went out and they gave the radio to Pfeiffer, and they went out and they just got scuffed up. They just had a hell of a fight all day. They were just going through it, and I was like, that's not cool. All right, I got to go back. And for whatever reason after that, I I was at peace. Like that was it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing this again. So I told the I'm ready. I can't sit on the sides. That's worse than not being able to sleep at night, you know?
Sure.
So I even told Doc, I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. You know, I'm gonna be good. So then we picked up a couple extra patrols that, like, we went on 2 patrols back to back. The one day before we'd picked up, and then we were doing this one, and it was just supposed to be a quick, hey, go test this Bobcat out in the middle of these grape rows and all this stuff. And it's got a mine roller on it. That's a great idea.
Let's take it to Skecha. Let's take it to the hardest to get to village.
Probably not our best shining moment in mission selection there. But so we took it out there, and it was supposed to be a quick, stupid thing to say, a quick mission out there.
Yeah.
Test this
Back
thing
by
out,
10.
see if it's worth keeping around and using, you know, whatever. So we got up there and we parked at Ghar, and we started our trek in there. And then I don't know about maybe 30 minutes in or so, we took first contact, and they just started shooting up the road at us. So this is not a road; it's a pathway with a wadi going through it, and then another little pathway and walls on both sides. So it's pretty narrow. There's zero cover, like maybe a skinny tree you can kind of hide around, but so there's nothing to hide. Man, after saying that to Doc, man, I've never been more scared in my life, standing in that tunnel there, just taking rounds over the head. Yeah,
literally in a fatal funnel. I mean, that's like day one of basic training. Is don't get in fatal funnels. Which for people who don't know the jargon, it speaks for itself, right? It's a hole that you can dump bullets into and mess people up. Yeah. And it was literally
think of like a doorway or a hallway. You get a large number of people into a very tight space.
Yeah.
You don't have to be very accurate. You're going to hit something if you just
got to keep pulling the trigger and traverse back and forth, and you're going to drop anything coming that way. Well, that's what they kept doing. They kept just squeezing rounds down, and then they'd bug out and they'd come back a little bit later. And man, I'll tell you what, that's probably the most scared I've ever been, because I mean, you can't get down on a grape row. You can't get behind a wall. You're just completely vulnerable. So they did that once, and then we got helicopters on station, and they did it at the second time they did it. They hit us again, and it was kind of like, all right, this is not cool. Like we need to get out of here. This is not good. This is going to end very poorly.
This was before the Minotaur went down to the creek, right?
Yeah. So that was our second contact right there, beginning to our quick short mission into Skecha. Jesus Christ. So then at that point we got Kiowas on station. We got, I think, an Apache. It was a pink team, so I think it was Kiowa and an Apache or whatever. So I started talking to them, trying to talk them onto it. And then they're like, well, we can't see you. So we need some smoke or something just so we can, because it was pretty heavy foliage over our heads.
Very heavy. Yeah.
So they said, put some smoke out there so we can try to get your position located. So we threw some smoke on us, and then they start shooting at us again. Shooting at the smoke, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
So that pissed Nintz off pretty good. I remember him kicking the smoke can into the creek, and he's like, that's stupid. You're giving away our position. Which, yeah, I think they know we're here. But yeah, it's not smart to smoke out your own position.
No.
Yeah. Like, hey, shoot the smoke. Just go a little bit lower than the smoke. You might hit something. So then they're like, all right, well, we see you guys, and they're talking to us, and at that point, the Minotaur took a swan dive into the wadi, and it's just like everybody. You can see everybody that's up there is just like, no, like this was supposed to be a quick one, So so it was not a quick one, as it turns out. And
to try to paint the picture as to why everyone immediately knew that, there, like you mentioned, this was a path that was barely wide enough for that Bobcat.
Yeah.
You're about, I don't know what, at least half a click, maybe a full click down from Hyena. There's no road, so there's no way you can get a vehicle back there to pull this thing out. It weighs probably 10,000 pounds.
Yeah.
There's dense overgrowth. It's like there's no way you're just going to get a helicopter in there and come pick it up, even though they talked about trying to do that. Be a good way to get a helicopter shot down too. But there's just no way. This thing weighs 10,000 pounds. It's in a creek.
Yeah. A big
And
creek.
it's brand new.
Yeah.
Like, and when you watch that thing go in, like the only thought on everybody's mind was, God,
We're here for a while.
the stupidity of
Stuck.
the Army was about to come down on everybody. Everybody knew it.
Mm-hmm. Stuck.
And if you ask anybody on that patrol, it would have been like, "This is stupid. Why are we doing this?"
We all knew it was dumb. We talked about that ad nauseum. So
Yeah.
we knew the concept of that patrol was dumb.
But I get if you want to test it out, why not test it somewhere
Pine
else?
Luke, man, go
Yeah.
outside the gate.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
instead of dipping our toes in the water a little bit, we swan dived in there, just cannonballed it, and made a mess. So
I mean, there was a road that went out the east side of Sperwan Ghar that went straight all the way over to like Salam Khan. That wasn't next to any rivers or anything, but we couldn't walk on that road because obviously it was full of IEDs. It would have been a perfect one to go down.
Yeah, we could have blown it up in the first 50 meters and got a record
Yeah,
in there to
just
pull
drag
it
it
out.
back. It would have been fine. Could have proved the point same, and you would have got your milkshake. So I'm sorry.
yeah, I've gotten plenty of milkshakes since. It's kind of an annual tradition now. So
Yeah, nice, very nice. So Minotaur goes into the creek. Then what?
So that's when I started talking to the Kiowa that was on station. You know, I was letting him know what was going on, and then saw sudden somebody came around the corner at the end of the road. They popped out and they jumped back around the wall. So at that point, I called them up and I said, "Hey, the end of the road from us, just not too far down the road. There's somebody about to poke back out, maybe or whatever." I was made conversation with him, and he poked back out, and he squeezed off a quick burst. At that point, tagged me in the lower abdomen, just above my pecker. Luckily, not any lower, or else that wouldn't
That'd
be cool.
been bad. Yeah.
When I got hit, obviously I dropped the mic, and that's probably when you kind of got the impression that I think Boyce just got tagged, because I didn't come back on the radio after that.
Well, we were up in the trucks. Our squad was in the trucks that day, and of course, as soon as you guys started taking contact, like me and Bally was my TC, and I was gunning, driving,
And I was driving.
Yeah, and I just remember us trying to spin. We were spinning our wheels, like how can we get to second platoon? There's a lot of other things that went on that day where basically you guys got left out to dry by the Afghans and by one of our other platoons. Thanks, guys. And so we were really spinning our wheels, man. But I just remember hearing that on the radio, and it was like you were mid-sentence and then just snap. It was done. It was over. I heard the gunfire over the radio, and I just had this like pit feeling in my stomach. It was like, shit, like Boyce is hit. Like I just knew it.
Yeah.
It's like an intuitive thing.
I had that same feeling in my stomach too.
Yeah.
I'd been
It's a little bit lower.
Yeah, a little bit
lower. Yeah, I had the same feeling. A little more intense, a little more burning feeling. But
I mean, what did you feel when it happened? Like,
Yeah.
was
Man,
it
it
like
was-
a pinch, or was it like hot, searing pain, or?
so I had that diaper on.
Yep.
So I think that kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm full of shit, but it felt like it kind of spread the impact out, absorbed a lot of that kinetic energy coming in.
Sure.
So, just like somebody took a baseball bat and just swung as hard as they could, and just tagged me right above my,
Yeah.
my dick.
Yeah.
So that hit me, and then it was like a pretty intense, searing, burning pain. And at that point, I was in the middle of the road. They take you stop for more than 30 seconds or 15 seconds, whatever. Hey, pop a squat. If you're there any longer, lay down. Take the prone. So I was literally the only one in that entire line. I was like, well, pop a squat. So I popped a squat, and that's when I got hit. And then the only thing that was just going through my mind was like, this is it. I want cover. I want to get lower. I want to get out of this road. And right next to this tree was kind of off to my left behind me, and it kind of gave a dip. No real cover, anything, but I kind of rolled to the left just to try to get into that, and then all that weight in my bag kind of flopped over to the side, and then we went for a ride down into that water.
Pulled you into the creek. Oh, so I
Pulled
thought
me
you
into the
jumped
creek?
into the creek. I didn't realize you had gotten like pulled into the creek by your gear.
No, it was not my intent to dive into the water.
Yeah.
It was just I wanted to get lower, and I'd kind of already fallen that way, and it felt lower to the left, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just took it with you.
once I got rolling in that direction, it kind of flung my bag to the side, and it pulled me in there, and I'm squealing like a stuck pig, and Nintz, he dives in like immediately dives in, and before I even hit the water, he had his hand on my bag, and it pulled him in with me, so we got to go swimming. Yeah,
In a
so
shit
then,
creek with an open wound.
yeah, which is
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Which is great.
So
So,
the
yeah,
round did go through the diaper.
Yeah, it went through the diaper, hit me dead center, my pelvis, which, my gosh, that's a 1 in a million. Like,
Yeah.
it's not often
Yeah.
that you're going to take a 7.62 round to the pelvis
And survive.
and survive.
Probably a strong argument to be made that the diaper saved your life, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it slowed it down enough that, because I mean,
That's
you
what
would
I'm
think a
thinking.
7.62 would just punch right through and,
Yeah.
come clean out the other side, but it didn't. It went in and it kind of ricocheted down off my pelvis, went into my leg towards my femoral artery, and it didn't hit the femoral artery, but there's another kind of like a secondary vein in there or something like that. It nicked that, and then also at the same time pinched it off, I guess. So it kind of slowed the bleeding a little bit, is what my understanding was of that. So I got, $1 million wound. Like, there, yeah, I don't even know how to explain it, man. I was just fortunate, just lucky, just blessed. I don't know how to even.
I'm sure fortunate, lucky, and blessed were the words going through your mind at the time.
No, I think it was shit.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm hit
Yeah.
low, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like to get hit in that spot. Because if I got shot there, I think the first thing I would think about is I'm gonna die. Because the first thing you think about when it comes to your pelvis and your waist is femoral artery.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with the engineers with Pinnock. It's like it was so high up. So I feel like if it was me, I would have been thinking I'm done. So
Yeah.
I mean, were you thinking that, or were you just thinking like, get me out of here?
There's kind of, I don't know, like a lot of things kind of go through your head, and it's not like anything that you can, I don't know, dwell on it, because it just goes through so fast. It's kind of like in and out. Like, it was.
Yep.
Leading up to that point, like I have not felt that fear ever since. Just being on that road, being in that fatal funnel, getting shot. I've never felt that like since. And then I got hit, and then I was like, shit, this is it. I'm out. But then just lucky as shit, man. The roll fell in the water. Sergeant Ott and Nance both jumped in and pulled me out and started working on me. That's a really hard injury to treat. Like,
Yeah, you can't do anything.
it's insanely
for it.
hard. You can't put a tourniquet
Slap an
on it.
Israeli
You can
bandage on it and hope for the
pack it.
best.
Like,
And it
Yeah.
wasn't bleeding much at all, was it?
no, it was all internal. Like, it was filling my sack up with blood. I think most of it was internal.
Yeah, we've heard
So
about
it's
your big
just-
old balls.
My big old balls. They're not that
Yeah.
big. They were just full of blood. So
Jesus, man.
yeah.
So
That
one
was
of the
what
things,
was Salvador saying to you while he was treating you? Was he like being
Sa-
comforting,
Salvador,
or was he being
so
Salvador?
That was Salvador's day off. Like,
Oh,
he
right.
had swapped out with Doc Hollers, and so that was Hollers out there that day, and he did a fantastic job of
Okay.
patching that up. And
'Cause I feel like Salvador just would have called you a pussy. And
yeah, he would totally stop your bitching and take it.
yeah. Well, I think another layer of complexity to that day, on top of the amount of contact, which I think by the end of the day was like 18 firefights or something crazy like that. Yeah, it was a lot. Like individual, I wouldn't say 18 fire. Yeah, I mean, 18 individual instances of taking contact, which I think was the record for the company. for the
I'm
rest of the
so
deployment.
glad I got shot at the beginning of the day, because that would just insult to injury is to get shot at the end of the day. That would have been worse. So I'm glad I got. If it had to happen, better to happen in the beginning of the day than like right at the end of the day.
So we talked about, Skecha, so it's already nasty enough. The cover and stuff like that is really thick. You get shot in the pelvis, and one of the things that was kind of unique to your medevac is that we couldn't get birds in there because of all the things that were going on. So another layer of complexity to that day was half of the squad had to split off and carry you back to the trucks.
Yeah.
And put you in the trucks to take you to Sperwan Ghar to medevac instead of landing a bird out there in the field, which when I look back on it now and you talk about the nature of your injury, I consider it a miracle that something didn't happen on that movement that would have either
loose or something,
shook loose the fragment that was pinning the the vein to your pelvis or whatever, and something didn't happen that fucked you up even worse.
like I said, one in a million gunshot wound, man. Like you don't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody else you could ever replicate that. Not that you like.
No.
Hey, let's go try and replicate this, but I don't think. Yeah, just a lucky son of a gun that day.
Well, they put you in our truck because we had the MRAP that day.
Yeah, they actually found a stretcher in some compound, and they went back and they grabbed it. And they carried me back, and I was pretty high on fentanyl at that point.
Yep.
So I remember, my little lollipop there. Yeah, I remember they were loading me on your truck, and there was a bunch of kids out there laughing at me and pointing at my balls like, he's got balls.
I remember that now that you mention it. I forgot about that. Little assholes.
I was like, screw you, little assholes.
Yeah.
But,
So
those kids are ruthless.
We hauled ass, got you back to Sperwan Ghar pretty quick. And then I got out of the truck. I helped load you up, and then we got out, and I was one of the guys that helped carry your litter to the helicopter. And by this point, like you said, you're pretty high. But one of the things that we had consistently going at this point in deployment was everybody had a Skyrim character.
yeah, we did.
So do you remember what you said to me as I was loading you onto the Black Hawk?
I honestly, from that point on, it's just I was high as a kite, and then it just got higher as as I got out of there. So I didn't remember anything for.
We're kneeled. I got my hand on one of the corners at the upper left corner of the stretcher right next to your head. And me and you had geeked out a lot on Skyrim after that point in the deployment. And so you looked up at me and you were like, "Coffee?" I was like, "What's up, buddy?" You said, "Play my Skyrim character for me."
don't neglect him.
Don't neglect it. You wanted me to keep on keeping on with your little dude.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's one of my cherished memories of that deployment.
I don't remember that. I remember showing up. And they unloaded me. They cut my boots off at that point because that's all I had on was my boots. I was bare ass naked leaving. And they cut my boots off. And then I remember First Sergeant McCollum came over and he said, he goes, "You probably think you're going home to get laid, huh?" I was like, "No, you're going to be back here in 2 weeks, all right? So don't think you're going home." And I was like, "All right,
nice,
cool deal." And the CO came up and he goes, "There we got his radio equipment accounted for. They still got his stuff." And I'm like,
been a consistent theme with him.
Yep. Accountability, man. Commander's worst nightmare.
Yeah, no kidding. And then that was on the bird, and Hollers did such a great job patching me up. They put me on the bird and we're flying out, and I'm like, I got my thumb, like they taped that fentanyl pop, and I'm just like a little kid sucking on my lollipop, and I'm looking at these flight medics, and they kind of looked at each other, and they kind of looked at me, and they were just kind of like,
well, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? And they just kind of kicked back to take my blood pressure, and then just kicked back, enjoyed the ride, and then so I get to the hospital there at Kandahar. They wheel me in there, and I don't know what they gave me, but man, whoo, that was good stuff. It put me down quick. Like I was pretty faded. And I was sitting there just kind of going in and out, and this chaplain comes into me and he goes, "Hey, would you like to call anybody?" I'm like, "What do you mean call anybody? I don't know anybody here." And he goes, "Yeah, I got a cell phone. You can call somebody back in the States." And I go, "Huh?" I'm high as a kite, like high.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I could call my wife. I don't probably want to do that to her. Call her, and then, then she doesn't hear anything for a really long time or whatever. So
sure. So
I'll call my dad. He kind of has experience in delivering bad news and kind of dealing with this type of stuff. So I'm gonna call my dad. So I was like, well, I don't know my dad's cell phone. I'll call the house. He should be there. Call the house. My mom answers the phone.
Oh no.
And I'm like, and she's not like the last person on the list that if I just got shot. I was like, who do I want to call? And my mom would be at the bottom of that list. Like, don't want to do that. So I'm like,
is Dad there?
It's like I'm like high as a kite, just trying to keep it. I'm like, hey mom. I was like, is Dad there? She goes, no, they're out at the camp with all the kids out there. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I got hurt. Yeah, kind of bad. I'm sitting there like this high voice, and he's like, operational security, don't tell her nothing, and I'm just like, so yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Oh my god!
And that's what I left her with was, yeah, I got hurt pretty bad.
Your poor mom.
I'll talk to you later. So yeah, and then it kind of
When did you get to talk to him again?
A
couple days later.
No, not that I remember.
Oh, really?
I think I talked to my wife and like I was so high, I don't remember anything until almost Germany.
Mm,
And I vaguely remember the horrible flight from Bagram to Germany.
sure.
That was a miserable flight.
C-130.
Yeah, they put me on. So they put me on the bottom rack, where they put stretchers. Well, there was this girl on another rack above me, and every time like I would be like fading in and out of consciousness, and every time I was just about to go out, she would like roll over, and like she had really long hair, and it would just smack me in the face, and just what's going on? Like every 10, 15 minutes or so, and that was the whole flight to Germany. So
Did they
just a miserable flight.
Did they do any surgery at all in Afghanistan to like get those fragments out, or?
I asked them for the bullet, and I said, "Hey, can I get the bullet?" Doesn't seem like that big. And they're like, "Nah, we gotta send it to ballistics." I'm like, "It's a bullet. He shot me with it. Can I have it?" Well, they wouldn't give it to me. So they did that surgery. They cut my stomach open to I think it's kind of a standard procedure type thing to make sure there's no infection with the intestines and stuff. So they cut me up pretty close to my sternum, down almost about my waistline, a little bit lower than that. So I think the recovery was more from that than actually getting shot.
But they did that in country, right?
Yeah, they did that all at Kandahar. Yeah.
I figured. I can't imagine they would risk transporting you across the world with bullet fragments inside of you.
So no, that was the only surgery I had. And then they flew me to Bagram, and I stayed a night. I think I stayed a night or a little bit of time in Bagram. And then I flew to Germany, and I was there in Germany overnight. And then they flew me to Walter Reed. And I was at Walter Reed for a little bit.
I didn't know you were at Walter Reed.
Yeah, so I was at Walter Reed when Clark got blown up. And,
really?
Yeah, so when I found out
it was only a couple days later.
Yeah, it was like almost a week.
It was a week, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, depending on what you choose to believe, it was your fault for giving him the boots.
The boots, man. Those boots had just shown up that day. I was pretty pumped to wear them. Did not happen. I just couldn't pass that boot on to someone else, I guess.
Yeah. What kind of boots were they?
They were Gormont T8. It's probably the best boots I've ever owned.
Well, you never owned them, so.
Well, I actually bought another pair.
Oh, okay.
After
that didn't concern you at all, buying the exact same pair again?
I was like, you know what? I just got to do it.
You tested the fates.
But you want to know something ironic is I did buy a pair of boots because I didn't have any boots at Fort Stewart. Which I immensely regret, being all superstitious I am, because I bought those boots the day before your big mission where everybody hit that 190 throat chop. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Wait.
So you bought these Garmont T8s.
No, these were different. They were different. I bought a pair of boots. I don't remember.
I'm going back to
the
beginning. You bought the Garmont T8s, got shot.
Yep.
Relinquished them to Eric Clark, who got blown up after he had been wearing them. And then Perez took them from him. Perez got shot. Then we burned the boots. Yep. You're saying you bought another pair of boots?
Well, yeah, because they cut my boots up in Afghanistan. I didn't have any other boots, so I was like, well, I need boots. But I bought boots, and then one thing apparently led to another, and and you guys.
Dude, you should just switch to sneakers, man.
Yeah, sneakers only.
No more boots for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
What
did you do with the other pair of boots?
The other pair of boots? I was like, no. I was like, no, this can't be.
Did you keep them?
I don't remember what I did with them. I don't even remember what boots they were, but I remember buying a pair of boots, and then like within a day or two, it was like, they hit an IED, and a lot of people got hurt. And I was just like, no, that can't be. no, that can't be.
Oh man.
No, I was in the hospital when I found out that Clark got hit, and the rear D commander, like, with all due respect, was a total douchebag. He came in there and he was like, hey, what's up? He's kind of on his cell phone, kind of like annoyed to be there. And he goes, hey, how's it going? Oh, yeah, they got another one. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, they got another one. He'll be here in about a week or so. I'm like, they got who? Like, what are you talking about? And he goes, Eric Clark. And I was just like, oh,
are you fucking kidding?
Yeah,
like,
fuck
if I could have walked at that point, we would have had a problem. But I think he realized like how stupid he was being. He kind of looked at me like, oh shoot, they must have been friends. And he was like, I gotta go now. And he left. And that
This
was
was at Walter Reed.
This is at Walter Reed.
Jesus me.
Yeah.
Was it one of the third ID people or?
Yeah, he was the rear D commander for 164.
Oh, he was just up
really?
there visiting or something.
Yeah, he was just up there doing rear D
probably
commander
being
stuff.
forced to go up there to do stuff.
So not only were you one of the first ones to leave early from our platoon, but you were probably the first one to return to duty, weren't you?
Yeah, they had me out there sweeping the motor pool within a month or so.
For fuck's sake, seriously?
No, so it was kind of a shit show. I was at Walter Reed. Oh man, this is the worst part about it all. So I was in the hospital a total of like 12 days, and so I got to the hospital and they told me like, all right, we'll fly your wife out to here, but you're about to fly to Fort Stewart tomorrow. I was like, all right, well, just fly her out to Fort Stewart then. They're like, all right, so we'll fly you to Fort Stewart. Make sure you give the doctors this paper, have them sign it, and then they'll fly your wife out to you down there. So I flew down there, got to the hospital, and they just did like a quick checkup on me, and then they set me up to what I would assume would be the psych ward. Mm-hmm. And it was an empty floor, and they put me in a room by myself, and it was what you would expect. You'd put somebody in a room with a straitjacket. There was a bed, there was like an old like click knob TV up, and a chair in the room, white walls, and that was it. Mm. And the floor was completely empty and abandoned. Like there was nobody up there. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is not good for my mental health. Like this is gonna ruin me pretty quick. So I go, all right, so I need to get my wife out here. Can you sign this? And they go, yeah, no, I can't sign that. You're not sick enough, dude. And I go, I'm not sick. I'm not sick at all. I got shot. Yeah, this is for if you're sick, we'll fly your wife out to you. And I go, screw you guys. Get me out of the hospital now. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So I called up a buddy who was there, and he drove me home. And my wife was in Oregon at the time because she was visiting family when all this happened. Mm-hmm. So I got home, and I was just there by myself, and I was like, I'm fine. I don't want to go back. Well, later I found out that if I would have stayed in that hospital for 2 more days, they would have lumped some $20,000 into my bank account for all of that. But I was like, oh, you bastards didn't even tell me that, But so I had to fly her out by myself.
This is a chance for us to get a soapbox out and set
it up.
If you are in any role in the military, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're a fueler, if you're medical, if you're an X-ray technician, if you're 11 Bravo, if you're fucking 18 Bravo. I don't give a shit. Like, take care of the people around you and realize these are human beings that you're interacting with, the human beings that are paying a human cost. And so, instead of half-assing it or neglecting somebody, realize that human being deserves at the least a modicum of respect and decency. And at the most, they deserve your effort and energy, And if they violate that, fine. But if you're going into somebody and somebody looks at you and says, I got shot, don't blow them off. Help them out. Just do your fucking job and help them out. All right.
Stick him in a room on a floor by himself.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
I think that was the worst part between leaving Afghanistan. That room was just...
That's terrible, man. That's
it was terrible.
That is not
it.
the way... You know what? I'm going to call out Third ID on this one. Third ID, you need to step up.
Third ID was not prepared to take casualties. That's one thing I'm learning from this entire experience. Was I think for some reason they had this belief that they were not going to take casualties on this tour because they didn't have a rep already at Walter Reed when Jay got there. Like, and eventually they got some really good reps down there, but how many people, like, they almost didn't even let Jay stay at Walter Reed. Honestly, the guys that had the best recovery process are the ones that stayed at Walter Reed.
Yeah, Walter Reed is phenomenal. They were
they
were awesome. They took care of the guys very well. They took care of me very well when I was up there. Unfortunately, I didn't get to stay up there as long as I probably could have. But
I don't know, man. There's a lot to unpack, actually.
Yeah,
and we can't do it because it'll take too long. But you said something earlier on that I kind of want to circle back around to, and I kind of want to close this out with because it's really apt and it's an interesting observation. You talked about how you wanted that day off. Like you were feeling the attrition. You've been on countless patrols, countless firefights at this point in the deployment, and all you needed was that day off. But then there seems to be 2 narratives: people who need that day off. Some people take that day off and they never come back from it. You know, They just, for something happens, something occurs that they just can't get back out there, which is fine. I understand that. And then some people get that day off and they get right back into the thick of it. So for you, you got your day off. They got into a series of firefights that day. And then you just couldn't do that, man. You had to be back out there. What was it for you personally that you think just like drove you to, like as you said, be at peace and push back out and just suck it up and do it?
I don't know. I took that day off. Like it was getting really bad. It's contagious when morale starts going down and when fear takes over on some people. On everybody has that constant fear and and then it starts to manifest in people different ways, and it's contagious. And we were getting hit pretty hard with a lot of mental attrition, with going out for long hours, trying not to step on IEDs and get shot at, and you're doing that constantly, and not just for part of the patrol, for the entire patrol. Like once you've left the COP, you're off the road and you're jumping walls and you're trying to not, you're trying to keep your legs and keep everybody alive. And it's just, that's really, it was really hard to deal with. It's for a lot of people. I mean, you guys, you obviously, you were there, and it affects everybody differently, and everybody's got their limits. And I was just seeing this going around me, and I had kind of, being the RTO, the LT, you kind of have a unique perspective.
Sure.
It's like everybody's got their platoon or their squad or their team. Like it was just me. Like I was by myself. I mean, I was with you guys, but like I wasn't part of any individual fire team.
Yeah.
I did, I helped out with comms with the platoon. I helped out any way I could. But like your prep for your mission was entirely different than mine. Like you guys got together and you worked together, and like I could see that from kind of a distance, and I kind of felt it. Like the morale was ticking away. And I think it got to me even.
Sure.
Just like seeing that, like mentally, like I had my own attrition kind of coming on, and it was it was beating me down pretty good. But when it finally was getting to the point where like we would go, hey, we're going to Keshmakan tomorrow. Like that's not good. That's a really bad place. Or we're going to Jot tomorrow. I'd lay in my bunk and I wouldn't sleep, and it'd be like a half sleep. Dreaming. I don't know if you ever had a dream where you were there. Like we went through the whole patrol. It would be in my dreams, but I'd be awake, but not awake. I guess
half conscious,
and
like
I would
slipping in and out of sleep a lot.
Yeah. So I would wake up, then I would just be like mentally exhausted and drained, and then we would go do that exact patrol that I just dreamed about. Not like exactly the same thing, but
right.
It was the same patrol that we were doing. And that would every mission that we would go out on, that's the night before, I wouldn't sleep, and I would just lay there in this half sleep, half like dreaming about what's going to happen the next day. And it was just kind of coming to a head and starting to build up. And that's when I went up and I talked to Telty. I was like, I need to get my mind right. And that next day they went out around, I think it was around Skecha or south of Skecha or somewhere over there, really bad area. And they just took a pound, and they just got constant firefights. I think more than one saw gunner went black on ammo from the constant fighting that they went on that day. And to sit on the sidelines and watch.
Squad, I would think.
I don't remember.
I don't recall that.
I think it was Pierce. I think was one of the saw gunners, because I always give Perez shit about being Pierce's AG.
Yeah.
for a saw gunner. So like, yeah, because he had to give Pierce ammo, because Pierce was on point that patrol.
That would have been us.
He had to give him ammo on that one.
I remember
so I'd be like, how does it feel to be Pierce's assistant gunner there, Perez? And he's like, fuck you, dude. So I always give him shit about that.
I'm having a hard time remembering this day.
I don't remember it specifically, but I do remember the part about Perez giving up his ammo to Pierce, because I remember he was
Not
super salty about it.
Oh yeah, he was salty. I still give him
very
crap
salty about it. And if it was to the east, if it was near Salam Khan, maybe.
I think it was around Salam Khan. It wasn't Skecha. I think it was, what's that one in between Keshmakan and Skecha? I think they're all kind of in a line there.
Was that the one where the ANA guy got shot?
I think the ANA guy sat on an IED on that patrol.
That was a little bit further north. I do remember that one too.
Yeah, it was a brutal day for them, like regardless of. But,
Maybe that was low crawl day.
Did an A&A guy sit on? Oh man, we're getting into the weeds
Yeah.
here. My shitty memory.
It might have been low crawl day. If we went black on ammo,
but
that's
who sat on an IED though?
I think it was just an
that was a
AA.
second squad mission when the guy sat on the IED, or second platoon mission. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
It doesn't
It was-
matter.
it doesn't
Point-
matter. Yeah,
it was a
doesn't really matter.
particularly violent day. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that, and then yeah. So it's really hard. Like it was hard for me, like just to sit there. Like it was almost worse than being on the patrol for me mentally. Was just like it was like shit. What have I done? Like I am such a dirtbag. They're going out and they're still in the thick of it, and I'm sitting here, trying to get my head right, and it's not a good feeling. It was not
No.
a good feeling.
Sucks,
No,
man.
and it only works if you do that on a day when everybody comes back and it's an easy day, right?
Yeah,
Like you can relax knowing that everybody else is fine. But
yeah. Like if it was just been like just another day,
Yeah.
I think it would have been fine. But maybe I needed that push mentally to myself in my head to tell quit being a pussy. You got guys out there and they rely on you.
yeah,
Get your ass back out there, and if whatever happens, happens. And so it was just kind of like, all right, so be it. I'm going back. I'm not doing this again. And I think that's probably one of my biggest regrets of that whole deployment was taking that day off. That was a tough one. Which you would think it'd be an easier day since I didn't do anything, but
it's a fairly common theme, man. It's happened a few times. I know, Bally wasn't feeling well, and he took the patrol off that Clark got hit. I took his place on that patrol, and that ate him up real bad. We've talked in the past about Luke's experience at Throat Chop. I won't speak for him on that one. I'm sure he'll want to add his 2 cents here in a second about that. But and I had the same thing right after Throat Chop. I needed a day, and there was a mission that we were supposed to go on. I was like, I need a day, sir. I just need a day, and I ended up not getting it, and I was glad that I didn't. Because when I went out on the mission, instead of staying back, I was like, man, I'm glad I didn't stay back. Like, I couldn't have lived with myself. We didn't take contact either. It was just, I needed to push past it and go out. And I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
it's weird.
I've talked about it before, and for me, yeah, that day off. Unfortunately for me, I picked the worst day of the deployment to need a day off. But I think it's a hard thing to describe the feeling of disappointment in yourself to that degree, because I was sitting on the fucking computer and somebody come in and was like, hey, Okoa got shot. I was like, oh, well, okay, what's going on? And then however long later it's come in, and it was Dennison, Evans, all that stuff came down the pipeline. Well, then I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs waiting on him to come back, and it's just like, it's devastating, because you feel
There's nothing relaxing about it.
No,
once that starts happening,
it's devastating to your mind, and it completely destroys your sense of, I guess, capacity and your ability. And it was such a difficult thing to surmount, man. And like just that day, oh God, I won't dredge you back up because I don't want to talk about it. But it's just that, yeah, like you said, you feel like a dirtbag. You feel like a real piece of crap. You know?
Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
No.
I think that was really pushing me mentally. Like it was bad, and I was like, no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'd rather go out there and step on an IED or get shot or blown up, whatever, than sit here.
And that's a real feeling too, like sitting back wishing that you would be there. Like you really wish that you were out there and that you were going to get shot or step on an IED.
Yeah.
Like it's a real thought that crosses your mind if you're on the COP and your guys are out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Boyce or Eric, you didn't get to experience this because you left early, but when we joined the squads together and started doing platoon missions, when we ran out of people, there was the occasion that you would have that one or two guys would have a day off.
Yeah.
And I remember one time Luke and I had a day off, and they were running a mission, and it was in a bad place. And we took the M14 up on the hill on our day off because we're like, I just can't just sit here and do nothing while they're. I mean, they were close. There was like Adam's Eye or
they went to that village just immediately to the east there.
Mm-hmm. They were trying to like set up an ambush or something. Yeah. It's like, wow, we can't just do nothing.
So me and Curtis, we went up in the tower with the M14 just to do Overwatch because like what we couldn't just not,
Right. Yeah, it just wasn't, and it was weird. I mean, there'd be days where people just it was nice that you could get a day off. It seems kind of stupid to even suggest you would get a day off in combat. Mm-hmm. But it's nice that it became like kind of a regular thing, and that it wasn't like you had to ask for it or beg for it. It's just like, hey, every couple of days somebody's going to have a day off. Mm. And then that kind of takes the guilt away because it's not like something you were asking for. It was just part of the schedule, man.
Yeah.
You know? And that's I think that's, if you're a leader watching this and you're struggling with how to regulate fatigue and your elements, just schedule it. Yeah. Schedule it. Like, hey man, Monday you are off. It doesn't matter what. If something bad happens on Monday, there's nothing you could have done to stop it because you were already scheduled to be off.
Yes.
It'd probably be better to give somebody a day off before they need to ask for it.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I spent most of that day in the talk. And, that probably wasn't any more helpful for me than anything else. I spent a lot of time up there, try to get the inside scoop.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I did too. As soon as the COVID hit,
took that day off, and then I was like, you hear them fighting up there, so you go up to talk, and then you hear the radio chatter, and you're just like...
Then they kick you out of the chalk, and then you...
Then you're sitting there pacing the door of the talk, just waiting for Hedden or somebody to stick their head out and tell you what's going on.
Hopping up on a guard tower to see if you can see him coming back in. And,
and it's interesting.
Not a good feeling at all.
It's interesting when you come back from that, because like you said, you essentially you come to terms with your own self-preservation and that you're willing to sacrifice that self-preservation. And so like coming to terms with that is a weird mental space to get into, or you just don't care. If I get shot, if I step on an IED, that's just what it's going to be. And then you keep pushing. And it actually, like, weirdly enough, it gets easier.
Yeah.
After you get to that point, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but it gets easier to go out. Like that last 2 months of the deployment was the easiest 2 months for me in the entire deployment. We got into probably 5 or 6 good firefights after throat job.
I kind of wonder if that's kind of your the mental way of making up for your own shortcomings.
Oh,
I felt like I had to make up for it now because. I should have been out there, doing my part, but now I'm up here, and they're out there getting scuffed up. Now I'm kind of,
it's definitely
a turd for being up here, and then.
I mean, I feel like I fought harder in that last 2 months than I did in the entire deployment because I feel like I had to make up for it. It was almost like a compensation thing. It's like I fucked up that one time, and I let everybody down, and so now when we get into a firefight, instead of just kind of like hunkering down and swapping a few rounds, I want to stand up on the roof and fucking lay scunion. Because I don't give a fuck. Like I'm gonna lay waste. Like Curtis. Yeah, Curtis did. As Curtis almost got decked like 2 weeks before leaving.
But there's actually it's interesting you mentioned those last 2 months and it being easy to go out. Mm-hmm. And I think a part of that was we kind of had it figured out, which is an arrogant way to approach it. Because obviously, as we've talked about, if we kept going, something would have happened, which would have proved us wrong.
Yeah.
But towards the end, I mean, we had the faith and the trust of our immediate supervisors. So Bally, Nintz, Evans, Service, West, all those guys trusted that everyone was going to do the right thing. So you didn't have this like battle of wills between your immediate supervisors. So you could go out with confidence like, hey, I know what I need to bring. I know what I need to do. I know where to step. I know where not to step. I know how to move about. A lot of those things that are scary at first because you don't know are kind of gone. It's a really interesting observation. I agree. I never had any anxiety about going out the wire except one time, which was right after throat chop. We went back to Najat like 5 days later.
Yeah.
And that one was really hard to step out the wire for.
Yeah.
But after I did that one, I was like, cool, I'm good.
Yeah, and we did take contact that mission. Yeah. I don't think we did.
We rolled a dude up. I remember that.
Did we?
We grabbed some dude in his laptop and stuff. It was
we didn't take contact.
yeah, it was
It was actually
pretty
a really
uneventful.
smooth mission. Like we got in there,
was.
we won't. It was a successful mission in that we got in there, got our guy, got out, didn't take contact because it's right on the northeast edge of the job. It's like one of the first compounds. It was nice because I actually remember that was probably the first time at deployment I was actually cool. Like we said, into the blocking position.
I was
And
cold, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's actually cool outside. This feels nice because that was probably November, I guess, or October.
Yeah.
That would have been October. Well, one of the things, Eric, that we do at the end of every episode is give everybody a chance to just say whatever you want. We give the mic to you, if you will, and anything that we didn't cover or anything you really want to get out there, just take it away, buddy.
I mean, I think we pretty well covered what, I don't know, we hope to cover, but no, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's really good to hear some of the perspectives of some of the other people. Sometimes you have some of the kind of the little things you see you've struggled with over the years, and then you kind of hear it from their perspective, and then you're kind of like, all right, that makes sense,
Mhm.
But I know I had personal problems with certain people that were above me, and then they kind of rubbed me the wrong way, or it but hearing, starting to hear some more of these things, it's kind of like, pull, like you said in one of the kitchen's episodes, take the burr out of the saddle or the thorn out of your side a little bit.
Yeah. Bury the hatchet.
And what Captain Kitchen said, everybody has assume everybody has noble intent. That kind of stuck with me when he said that. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Nobody's trying to screw you over, but yeah, for me personally, it's good to hear some of these other stories and other perspectives from our time over there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
no, I appreciate it, and interesting. Good to hear.
Yeah.
But
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's been interesting for me, especially because I was in the same boat. I had some thorns in my side and about some people, but it's been really good. I hope that for other people who are listening, it's a healing process for you to, bygones be bygones.
yeah,
For
For
most
sure.
people, I'm still sticking
most.
a few thorns a little bit deeper.
Yeah. There's one person I will
There's-
never forgive for anything.
There's one thorn that's going real deep.
Yeah, one thorn that's embedded so deeply that it'll never be
Yeah.
good.
It's okay. Well, I'll echo what Luke said. We really appreciate you coming on, man. It's it's an important story to tell, and we're just thankful that you trusted us to let us help you tell it.
Well, thank you for having me on. I heard you guys are doing a podcast. Wow, that'd be really cool to hear. And then you contacted me. I was like, me? All right, I guess.
Little old me.
Well, brother, I think the note to end it on is whenever they hauled your poor little ass out of there, and you're a little guy, so, when they hauled you out of Skecha and loaded you onto my truck, and I helped haul you up into the back, there's nothing but love for you in that moment. The beautiful kind of love you only experience in those crazy, wild, hectic moments, brother. So we appreciate you. We love you.
I appreciate it. I know a lot of people had to sweat their asses off to get me out of there. I was only 140 pounds at that point.
Yeah.
Carrying a 140-pound dude in full kit for a click and a half is it's no small task. So
Yeah.
thanks
right.
for everybody that I probably wouldn't even be here if half the guys are out there that were there. So
Cool.
it was awesome. I can honestly say once it was all said and done, and then they'd load me up on the stretcher, and I felt guilty for that too. But I was like, man, peace. I'm out.
Yeah.
Peace. I'm out.
I'm out.